Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Razum Pereira. The Supreme Court on Tuesday agreed to hear after 4 weeks a public interest litigation seeking that the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners be appointed by a 3-member panel or collegium. The collegium will comprise the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha and the Chief Justice of India. A bench comprising Chief Justice S.A. Bobde and Justices B.R. Gawai and Surya Kant took note of the submissions that the plea needed an urgent hearing. Advocate Ashwani Upadhyay filed the PIL seeking to ensure more autonomy for the Chief Election Commissioner's office and election commissioners. The plea has also sought an independent secretariat for the Election Commission of India and that it should also be given the power to make rules. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze how the election commissioner should be appointed and how to ensure greater autonomy for the ECI. Joining me on the program today are P.K. Malhotra, former Secretary, Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India, S.K. Mendiratta, former Advisor, Election Commission of India, and J. Sai Deepak, Advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Mendiratta, I'd like to begin the program with you. What do you think of the idea of having a panel or a collegium to make appointments in the Election Commission?
This is a very, very old demand and we have been repeatedly saying. I remember even in 1990, this move was started. There was a Goswami committee. They had suggested that there should be a collegium or some selection committee, and then they gave some proposals. On the basis of those proposals, even a bill which was known as the Constitution 70th Amendment Bill 1990, that was introduced in the Lok Sabha also. I don't know Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. It was introduced in Parliament. Then later on somehow that was withdrawn. At that time it was provided that the CC, because at that time no one was thinking of PCs. CC commission used to be a single member body. So main thrust was on the appointment of CCs, and then they said CC should be appointed by this a panel, and then Rajya Sabha chairman, Lok Sabha speaker and the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha.
Right.
These three should be members of that selection or collegium who should, but later on in 93, it was withdrawn all of a sudden and saying that we are coming with a revised and a better bill, which never came, and even today no bill has come so far.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Malhotra, let me bring you into the picture now. In 2018, the former CJI and of course, another judge, of course, had said that you need a foolproof and a better system for appointments of election commissioners. Why do we need a new, method of appointments? What is the present system of appointment as far as the Election Commission is concerned?
As Mr. Mendiratta has pointed out, this demand has been raised right from the very beginning, right from the day when the Election Commission is in existence. If you are talking of the existing system, the Constitution itself, which creates the Election Commission, has not prescribed any method for appointment. It will be appointed by the President. So this is an executive power of the President, and this appointment is made consulting the Prime Minister. I mean, the Prime Minister makes a recommendation of the President, and the President then makes the appointment. There is a transaction of business rule. Under the transaction of business rule, there is procedure prescribed that on a particular post when appointment is to be made, who all are to be consulted. For appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioner, the provision is that the Prime Minister makes a recommendation to the President and the President appoints him. But the Parliament has got power to make law regulating the terms and conditions. And once you are regulating the terms and conditions, in that law itself, the collegium system or the kind of committee which is being asked for could have been considered. As Mr. Mendiratta pointed out, this is not for the first time it is happening. Even if you look at the Constitution Assembly debates, even in the Constitution Assembly debate also this issue was debated. And there are many countries, examples are before us, in US, in South Africa, in Canada, the outside consultation either with the Senate or with an expert body, the methodology is available. After a debate, the Constitution framer decided that let the appointment be left to the government. Now, one thing, of course, the demand has been raised because there are many other positions in the government where similar kind of committees have been constituted by the government while making a law. But the fact remains that this is executive power of the government. Should that executive power be regulated in a fashion? What deficiency we have found in the present system of appointment? If we find any deficiency in that, obviously that need to be cured. There have been aberrations when the appointment is made. Some of the appointments have been criticized, but by and large, right from 1950 onward, the kind of respect our election commission commands world over shows that the people who are appointed to this commission, most of the time, they discharge their duty in accordance with the provision of the constitution.
Right.
And therefore, probably there is a reason that the government has not taken that step. Mr. Mendiratha also mentioned to the Dinesh Goswami committee report, the kind of present request which has come, that request has come based on the Dinesh Goswami report committee itself, because this was in 1990, then a bill was introduced, bill was withdrawn. Thereafter, the Law Commission also on 2 or 3 occasions with regard to the electoral reform, and it has given its recommendation. It has given recommendation that this kind of appointment should be made by a larger body, where there should be a Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Chief Justice of India, and many other committees have also been suggested. But government has not accepted it as a matter of policy. Now, in executive appointments, whether everywhere there should be committee, what about the other constitutional positions where the appointments are made? Tomorrow there can be a demand that under the constitution you appoint Attorney General also. Let for appointment of Attorney General also there should be a committee.
True.
Then there can be C and AG also. CAG should also be. So I think this is a major policy decision which government has to take a call on that.
Right.
Like for Director CBI or for Chief Vigilance Commissioner, if you have a committee, should minded those appointments are statutory appointments.
Absolutely.
They are not constitutional appointments.
Right.
For constitutional appointment, as on today, there is no committee.
Right.
Even the Law Commission of India in its 255th report has made a similar kind of recommendation, which are now subject matter of PIL.
Mr. Mendiratha wanted
to add, there is, to my mind, there is some deviation from the other executive appointments. Here, if you have a look at Article 324, the clause 3 says that the President shall make the appointment so long as there is no law by Parliament to give us the manner of appointment.
Right.
So, the basic envisage by the constitution makers was that there shall be a parliamentary law.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, let me bring you in, J-Sai Deepak, talking about Article 324 of the Constitution, what does Article 324 really say about the Election Commission and appointments?
So, I have to agree with what Mr. Mendiratha has just pointed out, that what was meant to be a statutory appointment has become a constitutional appointment thanks to the absence of a law. Okay. So, there was meant to be a legislation. In fact, if you look at the Constituent Assembly debates, one of the suggestions that was made was that the President shall make an appointment in consultation with the Prime Minister with the concurrence of 2/3 of the majority of the joint session of both houses. That was the suggestion that was originally made. And the reliefs or the proposal that has been placed as part of this particular petition, they are identical in most respects to the recommendation of the Law Commission of 2015 in its report.
Right.
Okay. And then you also had a judgment of 2017 by Justice Ranjan Gogoi along with Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, wherein they had taken the position that perhaps this requires a larger bench, and therefore they wanted to refer this under Article 145(3) to a larger bench to take a decision on this particular question. So, as far as I am concerned, there are 3 aspects which 324 posits. One is with respect to the distinction between the positions of the CEC and the ECs. Okay? And this particular issue itself was the subject of a major decision involving Mr. T.N. Seshan on whether the ECs are meant to play second fiddle to the CEC or whether they are meant to merely assist him in performing his duties, and that a CEC is appointed only as a nominal head for a particular department, so that there is a point person who interacts with the rest of the ecosystem or the establishment, so to speak. So, that is the discussion that has effectively taken place. So, I think we have to be shocked at the irony that after 73 years for a democracy, there is not a law which is specifically mandated by the Constitution with respect to the appointment of the top person for conducting the elections. That you are having this discussion after so many years is a discussion, is a question that we have to ask ourselves, as a consequence of which everything is happening on the basis of an ad hoc mechanism that the Constitution fortunately has given out. Otherwise, you would be stuck with a limbo.
Sure.
3, I think the collegium system that is being pointed out is fairly balanced. Be that as it may, I'm just surprised that why are we not going back to let's say some of the recommendations that were given in the Constituent Assembly debates itself. Why are we looking at a collegium system? Perhaps this has become necessary in light of the controversies of the last few elections with respect to allegations over the partisan nature of the particular body. That has been the allegation. Every time something happens and something doesn't go according to script of somebody's political plans or whatever happens, this particular body becomes the convenient scapegoat. So to ensure that nobody points fingers at the person who is responsible for the conduct of elections in the world's largest democracy, I think they have chosen to come out with what is perhaps I would call a compromise system, which is let there be a representation from both sides of the house along with the president and the prime minister. I think that's where this is slowly veering towards.
Okay, okay, yes.
I think
Mr.
we
Malhotra.
have to examine this issue in the larger perspective of electoral reform. It's not that the law is not there. Parliament in its wisdom has passed a law with regard to the terms and condition and transaction of business of the Election Commission in the act passed in 1991. There have been some amendments towards it also. And the Parliament in its wisdom decided not to put a collegium or a committee for appointment of this. So I think there is a larger issue. Larger issue is this electoral reform, whatever my panelist colleagues have said, I entirely agree with them. If you are talking of reforms, I think it will bring more transparency in. The question is much larger. Question is, should that direction come from the Supreme Court, that in an executive, how that executive power should be exercised, or it is for the executive itself to decide how it is going to exercise that power.
If the executive has not decided
yes,
in 73 years.
Yes. No, that's what I'm saying. They made a law. It's not that they didn't make a law. They did make a law that term should be 5 years. Normally, the secretary level or a chief secretary level officer should be appointed as the election commissioner. And so far as their functioning is concerned and their removal is concerned, the Constitution gives them full autonomy. Maybe if 1 or 2 persons are appointed who toe the government line, probably there may be an exception. But generally, as I said, by and large, it has worked well. So whether Supreme Court in a PIL should intervene and give a direction to the executive that for appointment of election commissioner, you must have a collegium, or it is the prerogative of the Parliament, then when it made a law, that such a provision should be there. I think in the larger interest of the democracy, I am with my panelists that this should be done.
Okay.
But
okay.
on principle,
yeah.
Whether
Should it be done by
the Parliament or by the Supreme Court?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Mehdi
No,
Ratta.
I just wanted to see actually in Article 324, there are 2 separate clauses. Clause 3 says that the Parliament shall make law to give us the manner of appointment.
Right.
Clause 5 says the terms and conditions. So the Parliament has so far made the law in terms of clause 5 of the article.
But not 3.
Not 3. That is what.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now, you know, just to go back to a point that was being made earlier, Mr. Mehdi Ratta, should we have a collegium system for appointments? Is that the way forward? Do you believe that that's going to answer some of the problems or some of the questions that are being raised now?
No, actually, I may add here, it's not my view only. Many of the chief election commissioners, they themselves have suggested and recommended. They say that when we come through this present method, then some people say he was appointed by that government, this government. So even if we do our best to be independent, people still cause some doubts. So if there is a mechanism by which we are chosen and then after consultation we are appointed, then that will give more force to our holding this office, and then we will be free from all that criticism.
Right.
So we also feel that it's better if some collegium system, and then of course people are saying when you can appoint a say information commissioners you can appoint only after this consultation process and all that. Why not the chief election commissioner, which is a constitutional position?
Okay. Okay. All right. Yes, Deepak. Yeah.
I think there's a very, and perhaps being the lawyer on the panel, I have to make this point. I think this issue largely revolves around how you read 324.2 with 324.5.
5, yeah.
Okay, and allow me to just bore your audience with a bit more of legalese here. The Election Commission shall consist the Chief Election Commissioner and such other election commissioners, if any, as the President may from time to time fix, subject to the provisions of any law that is made in force.
Yeah,
so if you read 324.2, it gives the impression that the primary appointing authority is the President, but that shall be subject to any law that comes into force with respect to the appointment of the CEC and others. Now take a look at 324.5. Now here it says, subject to the provisions of any law made by the Parliament, the conditions of service and tenure of so and so shall be decided. Now what does it mean? That could effectively mean that the law that the Parliament may pass shall primarily deal with the terms and conditions under 324.5, but the power of appointment is primarily in the hands of the President, subject to any law. So the power of appointment of CEC has law as optional and the President is primary, but when it comes to terms and conditions, it is the law that needs to take precedence over the ad hoc powers of the President, which may be let's say exercised in the absence of a law. Be there as it may, the understanding could be that a law that deals with appointment shall also deal with the terms and conditions. You can't have two different laws. In which case, it comes back to the same question, is it meant to be a parliamentary law or is it meant to be a presidential appointment subject to any optional law that may be passed? My view is that if you look at the Constituent Assembly debates, that was meant to actually vest the President with a significant amount of say with respect to the power of the appointment over the CEC. Therefore, even if a law comes into existence tomorrow, it may not be possible to take away the power of the President entirely in light of 324.2, because the power of the President is subject to any law doesn't mean that the law can take away the power of the President entirely.
Can't be taken.
So, I think this is where you perhaps have to strike a balance. Be there as it may, the existence of a parliamentary law is nevertheless a significant mandate which is crystallized from both these sub-provisions, from both these sub-articles.
True.
Okay. In the absence of which, the President is merely extending the scope of his or his presidency's powers, his excellency's powers at this particular point of time. So, there is no two ways about the fact that you need a law. What you have as on date is not exactly a law which has been passed by the Parliament as mandated under 324.5 or 324.2.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think my learned panelist has very articulately pointed out the difference between clause 2 and clause 5 of article 324, and I am entirely in agreement with him on that count. But the law which is made by the Parliament can also provide the conditions to be required and the process of appointment also. It's not. Because after following that process, the appointment will then be made by the President only under the 324. There is no dispute on that. I think there is no confusion on that. Appointment will be made by the President, but the law can be made by the Parliament. But the question is, if Parliament is not making a law on that particular subject, that is with regard to this collegium. Now, I take an example from this. We all know about the controversy of appointment of judges. There is no law for appointment of judges, and when the Parliament wanted to make a law, Supreme Court said, no, this is our prerogative and we will decide, and there is a, what is that memorandum of procedure which has been devised in consultation with the government, according to which the appointment of judges is made. Similarly, if the Constitution has given an executive power to the executive government for an appointment of the election commissioner, and a law has been made on that, except the prescribing the collegium or the committee which will be appointing, and the President appoints it on the basis of recommendation made by the Prime Minister under the transaction of business rule, why it should be questioned? Yes, as I said, if you are talking of electoral reform, I am entirely in agreement with that. To bring more transparency, there should be a sort of collegium or a committee which is even in the PIL also is being suggested. Dinesh Goswami committee has also recommended. Election Commission has also been done. Within the government also, whenever there has been debate, it is part of the newspaper reports that government itself has been saying that there should be such a committee. But when it comes to taking a decision, probably government has not taken a decision. Probably no government would like to do away with the power which it is enjoying. As the Supreme Court also, it struck down the constitutional amendment. It struck down the law passed by the Parliament with absolute majority, with complete majority, saying that no, in judges' appointment, the Supreme Court has the final authority.
You know, this reminds me of UNSC reforms and how it is stuck there. But yes, Jay Sai Deepak.
So I'm wondering what would happen if drawing inspiration from the Collegium of the Supreme Court, the CEC ends up interpreting 324 on the same lines as 124 to basically say, just as the autonomy and independence of the judiciary is paramount, which also means that the judiciary gets to appoint its own top person, similarly, the autonomy and the independence of the Chief Election Commission, the Election Commission itself is paramount, particularly in a democracy. Therefore, the CEC shall actually appoint the next in line in consultation with the president. What if they end up taking that position? I think that will be extremely interesting to watch.
It will be
Because
interesting.
they are effectively following judicial precedent.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
moreover, the constitution itself says
No, but the
that
appointment
the
is
No,
by
one,
the
at,
that
one
the-
at a time, please.
no.
Yes, Mr.
And
Mandirata.
and the constitution itself 324 says that the judges CC shall have the same rank as that of a judge of the
Judge,
Supreme Court.
exactly.
So that way, on that analogy, he can also
Absolutely.
assume to himself those powers.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
but I
yes,
think
Mr.
that
Mandirata.
may not be the correct proposition for the simple reason because the constitution itself says that the chief election commissioner as well as the election commissioners are to be appointed by the president.
No,
I
I'm
understand.
just
I'm saying one
no,
point
that
I
way,
said
that
Chief
way
Justice
even
of
the
India shall
judges.
appoint
Okay,
successor.
let's take the discussion
I
forward
just-
now. Yes.
That way, even the judges of the Supreme
Exactly.
Court, ultimately, they are appointed by the
by
president.
the president.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let's take the discussion forward now. So, Mr. Mandirata, you know, as far as larger reforms of the Election Commission itself is concerned, what more needs to be done, do you think? Do you believe that we'll have far more transparency if we get this appointments process out of the way and streamlined?
No, see, there are so many other things. See, we have been saying that at least to ensure the independence. Now, if you will see Article 324, unfortunately, it makes a distinction between the election commissioners and the CEC. CEC cannot be removed from office except in the manner which is like a judge of the Supreme Court. But the ECs can be removed at present. ECs can be removed by the executive head of the government. The only thing is a recommendation from the CEC is needed. So, if the government and the CEC agree, all the ECs can be just thrown out. But that is another. So, now you have to provide for the independence of the institution, not of a particular office holder. So, that is why we have been writing for so many years now that when the election commission is now a multi-member body, you give the same protection to the ECs in the matter of their removal from office.
Right.
Another thing also, of course, see, we don't have that particular power, what they call, our expenditure is not a charge on the constitution. So, it is debated. Of course, when Mr. Malhotra was there, they used to even make cuts from the estimates or the budget things what we used to send to the law ministry, because law ministry is the administrative machine. So, that way Mr. Sessions said, see, when I am applying my mind, I am giving you my estimates, so you please don't cut.
Right.
Not that a man, under secretary sitting in the law ministry or in the finance ministry, they should not. Now they, of course, unilaterally they are not cutting.
Okay.
So that should be a charge on the constitution. And just one thing
Yeah, it
more.
should be out of the consolidated fund is what you're
one
suggesting.
thing I
Okay.
say, see, when we just go to some other places and then they say, Pakistan says, yes, our expenditure is charged. Election Commission of Pakistan says, our expenditure is charged on the Constitution of Pakistan. What you are saying, you are independent. So
Okay.
that way,
Okay.
we have to cut a sorry figure.
Okay. All right. Yes. 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 I
Just one final point. So, the existing mechanism as it stands under Article 324 has a different position on with respect to removal of the CEC and the removal of the other election commissioners. Challenging that in a PIL, seeking of let's say a recalibration of the provision may not be possible unless the Supreme Court comes to the conclusion that on the face of it, this differential treatment is arbitrary and in violation of Article 14. Unless and until that is actually arrived at, the judiciary and the Supreme Court also cannot make a recommendation to the Parliament to revise the existing structure, because the court can only strike down existing provisions on the basis of constitution, but cannot ask for recommendations or cannot ask for amendments with respect to existing provisions merely because somebody feels that a different structure is possible. That is entirely in the realm of the Parliament. that is entirely, and perhaps the president can moot the particular discussion along with the parliament, but can the Supreme Court do so? That is a question of jurisdiction perhaps that the Supreme Court may want to look into, because that's the position the Supreme Court has consistently taken.
Sure.
That we will not actually look at whether there could be a different way that the law could be worded. Is the law as it stands wrong or right? That's a different question.
Certainly. And, Mr. Malhotra, what's the best way forward then? We've discussed so many facets, we've brought in so many elements.
Yes.
What's the best way forward?
I think if we really want Election Commission to function independently, as Mr. Mandiratha has also said, it should be a charged expenditure on the Consolidated Fund of India. That goes without saying. I am entirely in agreement with the two panelists here that so far as the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioners are concerned, their procedure of appointment and procedure of removal should also be same, and they should enjoy the same power, except as the law itself provides that if there are Election Commissioner and Chief Election Commissioner, then Chief Election Commissioner is the head, he is the chair, and the law already provides that the decision, in case there is a difference of opinion, decision will be taken by majority. To that extent, I think these are the electoral reforms which really are needed, and in case there is a committee for appointment of these bodies, like the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India and the Leader of Opposition, and in his absence the Leader of the largest party in the Parliament, then I think this will definitely bring more transparency in the appointment of the Election Commission, Commissioners as well as the Chief Election Commissioner.
Okay. Mr. Mandiratha, your closing comment on the program?
I also feel that there is no need for a law which may say that we will have a consultative process.
Okay, so we have a streamlined process going forward, and then the Election Commission and the commissioners too can work independently and work freely with a lot of freedom is what you're suggesting. All right, J. Sai Deepak, for finding closing comment from your side. This issue was touched upon earlier in the program by Mr. Malhotra about, is there a case for all such appointments now going forward to be made by a collegium or a panel?
See, unfortunately, you don't know today as to which appointment could become politically sensitive, and therefore you're looking for a bipartisan consultative mechanism for most of these appointments. I think there's only a question. However, not every position is the same, not every mandate is the same, not every office is the same. It has to be on a case-to-case basis, because if you start doing this, then effectively you might end up undermining the intent, the original intent of the Constitution, merely to placate to certain political necessities. Okay, it's not a constitutional necessity. It is a political necessity, because allegations are flying fast and thick every time there's an election. And that's the reason why this particular discussion, I think, has come about.
Okay.
It's not as if you're looking at revisiting a certain constitutional issue because a legal conundrum has arisen, because of which you think that the existing system does not work. You're addressing a political concern primarily.
Sure. Okay. All right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. An absolutely fascinating discussion here as far as the Election Commission and appointments of the CEC and other election commissioners are concerned. Several facets, several aspects discussed on the program. Very difficult really to sum up in a couple of lines as to what is the best way forward. But I think we can safely say that the panelists have agreed that we need a law really as far as appointments of these Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners are concerned. That, of course, is the best way forward. Let's see what happens in the near future. With that, it's a wrap. See you again next time.